How did Dems win back young men, featuring Olivia Julianna. I saw this. And I didn't want to watch it without you guys. So,
Olivia writes a Substack.
By Micah Erfan. I'm gonna send you guys the link to the video. All right, here we go.
Which probably, statistically speaking, like 89% of y'all read already. But Olivia, I want you to talk about that Substack, and I also want you to talk about one of the newer articles that you wrote about why men drifted right in the previous election. I consider myself a resident expert on this because I am a man, so I feel like we could have an interesting conversation on the conclusions you reached in that article.
Yeah, so my Substack it's called A New Perspective, oliviajulianna.substack.com, and we're actually very close to hitting 100,000 subscribers on Substack. I'm very excited. But I write a lot about politics, and I hate that all these newsletters are the same. There's so many Substacks that you get on, and they're all telling you the same stuff. I don't want to do that. I want to give you a new perspective on the political issues that are going on. And so I keep seeing people talk about young men in the 2020 cycle or the 2024 cycle, and they keep saying like, well, it's because like they're not getting laid enough and they feel judged, and or alternatively, well, they're just racist and they hate women. So like it's really, I see these takes coming out from both sides of the party wing, I would say, and I just think that all of that is wrong. I think all of it is wrong.
Okay.
And so I wrote this piece called The Politics of Getting Laid and Preachy Females. And I really dive into what I actually perceive it to be. And shocker, it's all economic anxiety. I think the Democrats have a really bad problem of every time we message to young men, we frame it in a way that is wrapped up in the same principles that we critique. We critique the patriarchy. We critique the way that men have higher hierarchy and power structures, and then we message to them as if not only is that the reality, but that they have to continue to be like that. So the example I use in the article is hierarchy and power structures.
Hold on.
Men have.
I got confused because the camera. I got a little bit distracted because the camera was zooming in.
Hierarchy and power structures, and then we message to them as if not only is that the reality, but that they have to continue to be like that. So the example I use in the article is the issue of abortion. When we message to young men on abortion, or men in general, we do it from the position of, well, real men protect women. And if you care about the women in your life, you should be pro-choice. And that might be true. That is true. But we don't come at it from the approach of this is the reality that young men face about that issue. Because it's entirely possible that a young woman in college gets pregnant unexpectedly, and that could upend her life if she doesn't have access to abortion care. But it's also entirely true that the young guy who gets her pregnant, now he's on the hook to not only take care of this child that could be him, that could be coming into the world, but also to take care now of the mother of his child. And I think that it would be so much easier if we just understood that the problems we're having with young men shifting to the right, it's not because they don't agree with us on the policy. They do agree with us on the policy. Not all, but they feel like we don't understand the struggles they're facing, the actual struggles, not the perceived struggles.
I think it's more that I think a lot of the most vocal members of the left don't care. It's not that, and sure, it could be both. That they could also misunderstand, but they openly don't care. Not like they're openly not only just not caring, they're openly hostile in a lot of cases.
Agree with us on the policy. It's because they feel like we don't understand the struggles they're facing, the actual struggles, not the perceived struggles of the masculinity crisis or whatever it is, the actual struggles. And instead, we just kind of want to blame them for all of our problems.
That's crazy. That's actually crazy because like that sounds pretty true actually. That's actually what it seems like is happening. At least just again like the most vocal members, who I mean might as well have all the power, right? Because they're the ones that are kind of controlling like the public perception of it, are basically saying that, are basically they don't care, right?
And instead, we just kind of want to blame them for all
Yep,
of our
and they just blame men for everything. Yeah.
problems.
Right. I think there's a lot of that I just fully agree with. I mean, we just don't message to men, right? As like we don't message in a way that resonates to men. Like something that you kind of responded to that I've seen a lot is
Wait, what doesn't resonate to men? Hold on. It's actually openly antagonistic a lot of the time.
well, the reason why Republican messaging resonates with men is because men want bad things, right? It's like men want to have sex and like own women, right? Like they want to dominate everybody, and Republicans say you get to do that, and then
What? Oh yeah, that's yeah. Oh yeah, that's what yeah. You know what? True. That's what they say at the Republican meetings, you know. They're like, how are we gonna get the Handmaid's Tale to happen? You know, we need to set this up, guys. All the women want to wear like their little Amish dresses and like milk cows, right? Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, true.
men want bad things, right? It's like men want to have sex and like own women, right? Like they want to dominate everybody, and Republicans say you get to do that, and then Democrats can't say that. So we just lost men. It's over, right? Like, what are you talking about? Like a lot of times it will be men that are liberals who will like agree with that shit. I'm like, dude, what are you like? What is going on?
Wait, what?
Like there's a lot of men that don't think that way, obviously, and it's just such a negative view to take on like half of the human race.
Yeah.
Well, I also think it's just so abundantly clear that the people who say these things don't actually spend time talking to young men. You know this because we know each other in real life, but I spend a lot of time on college campuses, and I spend a lot of time with
young men.
I love young men. I love.
Hold on, wait. I need to back up a bit.
Right? Like they want to dominate everybody, and Republicans say you get to do that, and then Democrats can't say that. So we just lost men. It's over, right? Like, what are you talking about? Like a lot of times it will be men that are liberals who will like agree with that shit. I'm like, dude, what are you like? What is going on? Like there's a lot of men that don't think that way, obviously, and it's just such a be men.
I'm trying to like hold on. I'm trying to understand what he said. Hold on.
Resonates with men. Is because men want bad things.
Okay, I'm gonna try to let's try to like go through this really slow.
Responded to that I've seen a lot is the reason why Republican messaging resonates with men is because men want bad things, right? It's like men want to have
because he's saying like this is what people. He's saying that this is what people the perception. He's not saying that.
Kind of responded to that I've seen a lot. Like I think there's a lot of that I just fully agree with. I mean, we just don't message to men. Right. As like we don't message in a way that resonates to men. Like something that you kind of responded to that I've seen a lot is the reason why Republican messaging.
So he's this isn't his point. He's saying that this is a thing that he responded to. So he's paraphrasing here.
Resonates with men is because men want bad things, right?
But you know what though, this is kind of true that like a lot of them do think this. Not him specifically, but. A lot of like turbo left people, like the loud turbo left people, actually do think this.
Like sex and like own women, right? Like they want to dominate everybody, and Republicans say you get to do that, and then Democrats can't say that. So we just lost men. It's over, right? Like.
So what he's saying is that like a lot of So just to clarify, he's paraphrasing. Like he's basically like engaging with her point about how the perception is wrong on the left. And what he's saying is that like, oh yeah, you know, well, men just want that. All of those like kind of like middle of the road, like kind of all of those people in the center that are convincible. All they care about is that those things. So we can't even do anything about it because they're already that's kind of their nature. So there's no reason for us to even try. Is basically what he's saying.
What are you talking about? Like a lot of times it will be men that are liberals who will like agree with that shit. I'm like, dude, what are you like? What is going on? Like there's a lot of men that don't think that way, obviously, and it's just such a negative view to take on.
So basically, like the typical leftist like kind of man would agree with that and actually say that that's true. Yeah,
like half of the human race.
Well, I also think it's just so abundantly clear that the people who say these things don't actually spend time talking to young men. You know this because we know each other in real life, but I spend a lot of time on college campuses, and I spend a lot of time with
young men.
I love young men. I love frat guys.
That is so weird. Wait.
Definitely clear that the people who say these things don't actually spend time talking to young men. You know this because we know each other in real life, but I spend a lot of time on college campuses, and I spend a lot of time with
young men.
I love young men. I love frat guys, and in that I
Oh man, imagine if a dude said
realize
that. Imagine if a dude said that. It would be over.
Even the ones that identify as conservative are almost always pro-choice. They're almost always pro-gay marriage. You'd be surprised at the number of them who support.
ISO says, "Bring me the sorority babes."
You know this because we know each other in real life, but I spend a lot of time on college campuses, and I spend a lot of time with
young men.
I love young men. I love frat guys, and in that I realized even the ones that identify as conservative are almost always pro-choice. They're almost always pro-gay marriage. You'd be surprised at the number of them who supported Black Lives Matter. And so I feel like people just kind of lump them into this box when the truth is, again, a lot of them are with us on the issues. They're just not part of our coalition because they feel like they're not welcomed in it.
They're not talked to, right? And yeah, they're not welcome. That's true.
I'm gonna be real, guys. So far, aside from the obvious weird comment that if she was a guy and she said that, it would have been really bad, right? There's no way they would accept that. But to be honest, so far, I think a lot of her points are not bad, actually.
A lot of times where it's being
I think it's kind of true. It's kind of true, that they do this.
Masculine characteristics seem like they're frowned upon, and they're kind of welcomed and championed.
Yeah, I don't know about that BLM thing, but by
the Republican Party, and masculine characteristics are not characteristics that are intrinsically bad, right? And I think that some Democrats have presented it that way. Now, obviously not most Democrats, but it's this perception that a lot of guys have had. And in terms of issues, good messaging is messaging that resonates with people's actual anxieties and lived experience, right? And so, yeah, the Whatever podcast can resonate with men that are incels or struggling with women, right? Because a girl was mean to them or whatever, and they're able to project upon those women which come on.
No, the Whatever podcast is interesting because it's people being dumb and it's funny. That's why.
Look really dumb. They're able to say yeah, all women are like this. I feel better about myself. But there's all these other things that resonate probably more, which is man, shit's expensive, right?
It's really funny. It's when you go when they have a Coliseum, and then you have one super ripped dude, and then you just have 5 weak random slaves or whatever fight them. They just get 5 captured people or slaves, they captured from other countries, random citizens that are not actually fighters. And they put 5 of those in a ring with a turbo gladiator, and he just destroys them all. That's basically the Whatever podcast in a nutshell. It's it's like watching the lion tear apart 5 people in a Coliseum. That's what it is, really.
Man, I don't feel supported, right? I don't feel like there's anywhere for me to go, right? I feel like if something bad happens to me, no one's there to support me. That's the thing that a lot of men deal with, because men are a lot of times kind of put in the box of supporting other people, so no one's there to support themselves. And it's those are things that we can absolutely talk to. Actually, we could probably speak to better than the Republican Party.
Yeah, I think speaking to that is also understanding the mentality that they're coming from too. So another example is when you look at the polling of what are the issues that are the most important to young men, one of the top issues consistently is immigration. If you actually talk to a young guy about how he feels about immigration. Am I allowed to cuss on this?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, they don't give a shit. They don't give a shit about immigration. It's this idea of scarcity and competition of, if you're a young man in America, you are expected to go to college or go to a trade school, get a certification, get a degree. Then you're
This is talking like, I mean, I guess we can look real quick. So the thing is like, what do they mean by that, right? Let me back it up real quick and like look at the data that she's talking about.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, they don't give a shit. Use consistently.
Thinking about the major issues facing the United States, please tell us which are more important. What year is this? 2024. Percent that each area wins the field. I mean, according to their own data, it's 51%. That's still more than half. What is this? Harvard. Oh, it's a Harvard youth poll. Oh, okay. Yeah, they're talking specifically about youth. About immigration. I mean, this kind of makes sense. This does kind of make sense because it takes a while for you to actually like make to like draw that conclusion, right? That the immigration is tied with so if you look here, they actually do care about inflation a lot. So like inflation in their own stats here, inflation being 66%, housing being 55%, jobs being 55%, right? Which would be considered high, higher up on the I mean, if you look at the rest of it, you have the highest being Republicans at 26% on inflation, but on the high end. So this inflation, housing, jobs, corruption, protecting democracy, all of these things that are like pretty high up, like 56%, these are like immigration is related actually to these, right? So I think it's just like a matter of time. So if they are talking about young men, like college age men, this actually just kind of makes sense because you kind of looking at the immigration issue as being connected to like, protecting democracy, drugs, jobs, housing, inflation, and even healthcare in some way. Immigration policy is related to those directly, but it's not obvious, right? It's something that you have to parse, right? So I can honestly see that. Like I can see this being real.
Is immigration.
It affects it all. It does.
If
yes.
you actually talk to a young guy about how he feels about immigration, am I allowed to cuss on this?
Yeah.
Because they probably don't. They probably aren't like. And again, like this is youth, right? This is a youth poll, so this is going to be like people like 24 and under. Probably don't understand yet that there are ramifications. That all of the things that they do care about are downstream of immigration, right?
Yeah, they don't give a shit. They don't give a shit about immigration. It's this
That's
idea
a fair point, I think.
Of scarcity and competition of, if you're a young man in America, you are expected to go to college or go to a trade school, get a certification, get a degree. Then you're expected to get a high-paying job. And then once you get your high-paying job, you're expected to find your wife and to buy a house and to have kids and to do all of these things. And if you don't do that, then you're a failure because you are the man and you are the provider. And if you can't provide, then you're not actually a man.
And that's gotten a lot harder, right? And like, let's just be real. Like all of those things have gotten harder.
So we set the Republicans specifically, they set this expectation and then they make it almost impossible for young men to actually,
especially if you're in California, like if you're in one of these kind of Democrat states, it's like really, really hard, right? Because like, okay, let me tell you something, guys. So when I moved from California to Texas, the place in Texas costed half the amount. So it was half the amount of the place in California. I have like probably 8x the amount of land, and my house is bigger and nicer. But it's half. Yeah. So so selling the place in California, moving to Texas, again, bought a place that was half as expensive as my last place, way bigger. Yeah. And it's like I said, this is unheard of in California. You can get a house in Texas, brand new house, fiber internet, Just like, it's not like too big, not too small. It's like a nice medium starter house. For like a person that just like, getting ready to like, start a family and stuff like that. You can get like a brand new place for like 180K here in Texas. 180,000. That's unheard of in California for a brand new place with like fiber internet hookups and everything. Like sewer, water, like all of that. Yeah. 180.
Actually do those things.
Where do you get that? So find like a major city and then move like an hour away. Basically. So like find like a major city of your choice, whatever you want. Go like an hour away and you'll find a place like around that price. There's developments everywhere. And then you're like 1 hour away from the city. So if you need to go to the city, you can.
Whether it's through not raising minimum wage, whether it's
Shubati says, stop. Do you want more of them moving to Texas? You know what? True. Well, you know what? Yes, actually. You know what? Shubati, yes. If you're in this chat and you don't hate me, you don't think I'm a bigot, racist, homophobe, then yes. Yeah, move to Texas. Yeah, for real. Do it.
Through the price of tuition going up, all these different things. And so what ends up happening is you have these young guys who they're working every single day.
Yeah. Texas is doomed. I mean, if listen, if you're not a leftist if you are watching me, probably. You're at least moderate. You're at least like at the furthest, you're moderate. You're like Asmongold. At the very least, you're probably like center left. There's barely anybody here that's watching me that is like a hardcore leftist because they all think that I'm evil. Tazuto's already in Texas. He was here before me.
They're working on oil rigs. They're working at Amazon warehouses. Maybe they work a 9-to-5 job. They're working every single day and they're still not getting ahead. So then we force young men to make this decision of either you can blame yourself or you can blame others. And if you're a young guy and you're working 8 to 12...
But he like complains about Texas all the time in chat. He's talking about docs. He talks about it all the time.
They're working on oil rigs. They're working at Amazon warehouses.
Sorry, let me back up a bit.
For young men to actually do those things. Whether it's through not raising minimum wage, whether it's through the price.
Sorry, let me back up more. Okay.
Scarcity and competition of if you're a young man in America, you are expected to go to college or go to a trade school, get a certification, get a degree. Then you're expected to get a high-paying job. And then once you get your high-paying job, you're expected to find your wife and to buy a house and to have kids and to do all of these things. And if you don't do that, then you're a failure. Because you are the man and you are the provider. And if you can't provide, then you're not actually a man. And so the Republicans specifically, they set this expectation and then they make it almost impossible for young men to actually do those things, whether it's through not raising minimum wage, whether it's through the price of tuition going up, all these different things. And so what ends up happening is you have these young guys who they're working every single day. They're working on oil rigs. They're working at Amazon warehouses.
Yeah, she's actually okay. So I don't agree with a lot of her points. Like for instance, the minimum wage thing. There's again, but here's the thing: is it doesn't have it. Okay, I don't agree with her on the minimum wage thing. I don't want to go into it. That's a whole different conversation. But a lot of what she says actually makes sense on a base level. Right, like if you don't actually like think into it like too much, the intent behind what she's saying actually makes sense. Yeah. I think her intent is good here actually.
Maybe they work a 9-to-5 job. They're working every single day, and
it's just not. I just don't agree with the solution. Does that make sense? I agree with the intent. So like with a lot of like hardcore leftists, I don't even agree with their intent at all. Like I think their intent is actually bad. But with her, like so far from what I'm listening. A lot of her points, the intent is good. It's just I don't agree with the solution. Brother Redback, thank you so much for the bits. Thank you. If you're working oil rig, you're not hurting for money. They pay a lot. Yeah.
Still not getting ahead. They work a 9-to-5 job.
Don't be fooled. I'm not, dude. Roger, I'm not fooled. I'm just saying that like she makes more sense than other she makes more sense than other like, I guess you would say, the people who have control of the Democrat Party. And I think that they would have a lot more they would be able to control a lot more political space if more people were like her.
They're working every single day and they're still not getting ahead. So then we force young men to make this decision of either you can blame yourself or you can blame others. And if you're a young guy and you're working 8 to 12 hours a day, if you're paying all your bills, you're doing everything you can, and you're still not getting ahead, why do we expect them to think that they're the problem? They're doing everything that they've been told to do their entire life. And so that kind of little nagging, insecure voice in the back of the head, that's where Republicans really push through that ideology and get to young men, is because then they can convince them, well, this is the person whose fault it is. It's not your fault that you can't get ahead in America. It's the immigrants who are coming here. It's their fault because they're taking your high-paying job.
Okay, so that's kind of true, but like not in the way that she said it. So with more people, with there being more people, there's less demand because there's more supply. There's more supply. It's just a supply and demand thing, right? Yeah, it's all the jobs. Yeah, it's all the jobs. Exactly. Yeah. Again, like, so, you know, price is dictated by supply and demand. Supply being the amount of people in the workforce, and then the demand being like the amount of jobs that exist, right? And the thing is too, is, the other thing is too, is you need a certain type of person. Okay, how do I explain this? All right, so, okay, guys. In order to make a party, so you want to make a party, you want to make a raiding guild in an MMO. What do you need? You need people that can lead, and you need tanks, and you need healers, right? And then say like you're a DPS player, and then the server just got 10,000 DPS players. So now you're in a position where people that main DPS, they aren't really spec'd for, they're not really good at playing tank or healer. But now, like, there's so many DPS, none of them can find guilds. Yeah.
Right. And this hits on something that's so true. It's not that people are intrinsically prejudiced against immigrants. I mean, certainly some people are.
And again, like, you need a certain type of person to play tank or healer effectively, and you need enough raid leaders, right? Raid leaders are like rare, right? Like having a person that's like good enough to like be a raid leader and actually set up the guild, like they want to set up the guild and then like, you know, be the one to invite people, recruiting and stuff like that, right? It's like if you don't have enough of those people, because those people, it's like it's a pain in the ass. A lot of people just want to play; they don't want to deal with that kind of shit, right? So having not enough of those kinds, those people don't just like appear, right? Especially if you add in, you know, a bunch of DPS players who are not really gonna lean towards, you know, those kinds of positions like healers or tanks, like I said earlier, right?
But most people are not. The critical mass of Americans that say they care about them.
Phoenix says, the reason I don't pay league fees for hockey is I play goalie. And there's so few of us that it forces teams to compete to even have a goalie on the roster, much less a good one. Yes, exactly. What I'm trying to say is like the people who would create these businesses, it's not your typical person who like creates a business. It's like it's a different class, basically. Like I mean like MMO, like a different class of individual, like a different stat spread. And if you're only importing, you know, and if you're only importing like DPS players, like I said, that like you're not gonna have enough raids for everybody. Then you're gonna have some DPSs that are out of guild.
Immigration or not.
You could use the same analogy for like you know, Marvel Rivals, right? Where you have like you have a team, your team leader. You have like your defender players and then your support players. And everybody wants to play DPS.
It's that Republicans have made immigration an economic issue. They made it an people are, but most people are not. The critical mass of Americans that say they care about immigration are not. It's that Republicans have made immigration an economic issue. They made it an everything issue. I mean, they point to immigrants and they say, these are the people that are taking away your livelihood, the safety.
Well, okay, hold on.
People are not. The critical mass of Americans that say they care about immigration are not. It's that Republicans have made immigration an economic issue. They made it an everything issue.
It is an economic
they point
issue.
to immigrants and they say, these are the people that are taking away your livelihood, the safety of your family.
Well, it's not. Okay, so it's not immigrants in general. So if we were to vet, so there's a way to do this. So it's not. So immigration as a concept is not the issue. The issue is the gatekeeping involved in immigration. So for instance, if you were to say, okay, guys, like, listen, we're going to, going back to my analogy earlier, listen, guys, we're going to open up the server, but only if you're a raid leader or you heal or you tank. If you heal or you tank or you're a raid leader, then yeah, you can come into the server. Then we don't have the problem from before, right? In fact, you fill out more. You can fill out more of those DPS roles, right? Because now you have more of those other things, right? And that's the thing is, like, you can set it up. You can set it up in a way, immigration in a way where it's vetted, and you're making sure, okay, like, these people fit the culture. These guys fit the culture. These guys have the skills, and yeah, that's really important, right? But the problem is they're conflating immigration with illegal immigration. Illegal immigration is unchecked, and again, like you're having people who are economic refugees, basically, right? And they don't really have the skills. At least right now, I'm not saying that they can't eventually have them, but you don't know that. You don't know if the person that you're letting in illegally has the skills to actually evolve, like, into a, or switch class is a better term, to switch class into like a healer or tanker or a raid leader. You don't know that, right? It's a gacha basically at that point. You're rolling gacha, right? And the rates are not good, is what I'll say, because the pool is already people who are economic refugees, which means that they couldn't really make it in their own country, right? They couldn't develop those skills in their own country to make something. Again, economic refugees. The problem is we don't know. So even if you were to say, like, okay, well, there are, like, people mixed in there that are really good, we don't know. That's the fact of the matter, because they're here illegally. We don't actually know the answer to that, even though I think there's a lot of data that shows that, yeah, it's a lot of, like, more low level work. If you want to use an analogy, it's a lot of the DPS players, right? I'm not saying that DPS is bad, by the way. Like, DPS is hard to play, but analogy. So you can set it up in a way where, again, like, you're vetting people, but that's not what they're talking about. So it is definitely an economic issue by letting in a lot of unskilled labor unchecked, unchecked, culturally unchecked. It's obviously a problem.
Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, like, that's a lie. It's a vicious lie, but it's a lie that you can perhaps understand people believing if they have no other explanations offered to them. And I think there's something else about this that's really insightful. Men are looking for an explanation about why things kind of suck in their lives.
Yeah, I will say, though, that I do appreciate that they're actually talking about it rather than just screaming. So even though I don't agree with, like, what he's saying, I think this is the way to go about it, is to, like, have, like, this kind of attitude, and then, like, let's talk about it. Let's go through our issues. We both want the same thing. Let's talk about why I think my idea is better than yours. I think that's a much better way.
Right? And so if you look at a lot of the content that men, like, watch, well, some of it's, this right-wing content. A lot of it's, like, self-help stuff, right? Like, who's the most into self-help? It's men.
It is.
It's your mind. It's your thought process. That's the reason why things suck, right? And it's not that people are even always eager to blame someone else. They're just eager to have an explanation, a solution to the suffering they're facing in their lives.
Mm.
I had a really in-depth conversation a few weeks ago with some other content creators where I was talking about the messaging that the Democratic Party uses so often.
Yuki says that they're intellectually dishonest on the topic. It's possible that they don't know. You know, that's also possible, is that they don't know. But like, regardless, I mean, that's kind of speculation. Again, my point is that this is a better way to talk about it than to just yell at people and say that they're racist. Leaf being charitable again? I don't know. It's how I am. I'm sorry, guys. I always try to like see it from a different point of view, from a different angle. I'm just like that. Like, because I understand what it's like to be misunderstood. It happens a lot. So I try to give people the benefit of the doubt as well. You know, for better and for worse.
And we talk about the, you know, diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI. And I think where we've kind of fallen into this trap is we have made the party exclusive by trying to make it inclusive. And what I mean by that is every room we walk into, the messaging that we're using is different. Every single one of them. And I think that that's the wrong way to go about it. I think we should have one specific, this is the message we use on this issue. Because people are going to interpret that message however they want to interpret it. Mm-hmm. Everyone has their own form of cultural competency. So
this actually makes sense. Like, if you this reminds me of like Hillary Clinton and Kamala changing like their accent depending on what room they're in. Kind of reminds me of that. Honestly, though, I can't really, you know, I'm not really one to talk because I have a habit too of I do this as well, where I based on like who I'm talking to, like my based on like who I'm talking to or like what I've been, I'm the type of person where I take on the traits of the people around me, and I think it's just like if I were to like psychoanalyze myself, I think it's like some kind of like survival mechanism of like I'm a really shy person. So I try to fit in. I think it's probably why I do that.
And I think what Trump in particular is they kind of...
It's not on purpose. It's really not on purpose. Like I've heard people say that like I kind of sound like Asmongold, and it's because I watch a lot of Asmongold, right? And it's like I kind of like assimilate like naturally. Like I'm not thinking about it. Like I just kind of take it in, you know?
Say the same thing over and over again. And then if they ever change their opinion on it, they just say it with so much confidence.
It's not on purpose. It's not on purpose, not for any nefarious purpose. It's just like I had a friend from I had a friend from Thailand, and he would always speak in like kind of he would speak in a kind of broken sort of English way. But whenever I talked to him, I would start speaking the same way as him. Like, you know how sometimes I say, "Oh, you're God"? That's from my friend. He said that all the time. His name is Runik. His name is Runik. He got deported to Thailand, actually. Poor guy. Poor guy. He got deported. But he always said like "Oh, you're God." Like he'd say "Oh, you're God," and like I say it all the time now because of him. Right, and then like I had another friend Cher, who said SMH all the time. And so I started saying SMH all the time, right? It's just like, I just kind of, you know, it just kind of, again, I think it's because I'm socially like really, like I'm socially awkward. And like, I'm not really a social person. So I just try to like fit in, you know what I mean? I try to like subconsciously like make myself less noticeable by doing that, I think is what happens.
That it's hard to convince people that that's not what they meant. So for us, I think it's just we should just be saying the same thing about the same issue over and over and over again, and let the voters decide what it means through their own cultural lens instead of telling them specifically.
My suspicious inquisitor says, I think Leaflit is a pragmatic thinker, and pragmatic thinkers over time are less susceptible to bad logic. I'm not gonna lie, like this is gonna sound like really retarded, but it's probably because I read Umineko. To be honest, join the cult, guys.
What we mean every single time.
Right.
But yeah, I just pragmatism. Yeah, I guess I'm I'm well aware of like the flaws of humanity. Pragmatism is ultimately soulless. You think that having a like a utilitarian view is soulless? I don't understand. Abortion is a pragmatic solution. I see what you mean. I see what you mean. I don't believe in that though. I don't believe in that because I don't think it is a solution. Yeah, I don't really believe that the ends justify the means. And in this specific case of abortion, I don't think that killing innocent people is justified. So yeah, I don't agree with that.
The issue with pandering is it looks like you're pandering. You don't seem genuine whenever you're saying something different in two different rooms with different demographics in them. Even if you are being genuine, but sometimes it's just not, right? Like the Kamala Harris's agenda for black men. I don't think that really went anywhere because it just seems so kind of contrived. It seems so like.
Well, it was just so, and this is the same thing. It's the same thing that Hillary Clinton did, where it's, like, you'll have people on the right throw out these claims of like, well, what are you doing for this group? And we'll have these long-winded like explanations with these details and these figures, and then we can go out and talk about it so we're blue in the face, but at that point the conversation's already moved on because they didn't actually care about the answer. They cared about how they felt about the answer. And so I feel like we just get into these specifics so frequently that frankly, like, people just don't care about.
But we need simple ideas that you articulate all the time, right? So like, for instance, build more housing, right? And somebody says, well, how does that benefit this group? It's like, well, do you live in housing? Like, there's some big economic issues that hit everybody. Affordability is one of the most central ones.
Okay. See, the thing is like, okay, the problem here, and again, I don't think that their ideas. I think their ideas come from a good place, but the problem is saying that you want to build more housing doesn't make more houses appear. That's the problem. Is a lot of people on like the right. It's not that the people, and this is like a common misconception, I think, of people that have conservative thinking, is that the idea that we just don't want to build housing because we hate people or something like that. That's not the case. It's just that the idea of like, hey, let's make more housing doesn't make more housing appear. You have to have a solution for like, how are we going to do that, right? And a lot of the times, like, their solution is like, well, just give us money and then we'll handle it. But it's like, oh, I don't trust you. The thing is, I don't trust you with my money. I don't think they understand the point, really. You know, like if it's a zoning issue, well, I mean, like, if you want to fix zoning to make it like cheaper to make houses, you want to lower taxes to make it cheaper to make houses, then like, I agree with that. Too many laws in California to build. Dude, I was actually shocked at how fast they can build shit in Texas. It's crazy. Like, like they were like, yeah, we're striking ground on this new project. And I was like, that's going to take fucking forever to like build. Like, yeah, whatever. See you in like 4 years. And then like, boom, it was done in like 4 months. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, there wasn't a building. There was like freaking forest there. And now there's a fucking Whataburger. I was like, how did they do that in like not even a year? It's crazy. It's so fast. Yeah, it's so fast. And I think and again, it's like the solution is not you know, I think they think that when they say we need to build more housing for people, that we're just like, bah humbug, fuck you guys, like, don't care, like, you know, don't care, fuck your houses, I hope you never get a house. I think that's kind of like what they think, but we just don't agree with how they get there. Like, obviously, like, we want more stuff. I want more people to be happy. I want more people to be able to have housing, but I just don't agree with their solutions on how to get there. I don't think they even understand our point.
And that's something that we should champion. And the good news is it helps everyone, right? It's not just good policy all the time, but it's also like, we don't need to have different messages for different groups, in large part because there isn't different policy solutions.
Well, it doesn't. So like, it's not good for everybody, right? So like a lot of like, what do they even mean by that? Like, oh, we need more housing. That's good for everyone. Yeah. Okay. Well, it depends. Right. Like that sounds really simple. Like, yeah, more housing is good for everybody. So we should all make more housing. It's like, well, what do you mean good for everyone? So it's not good for me, for instance, if you take away my money to give someone else a house. That doesn't help me. That doesn't help me, and I don't consent to it. Right? It's like, what do you mean by this? This is the issue. This is like the big disconnect here, I think, with this is a big disconnect between how I feel. I'm not even, maybe conservatives, how I feel, conservatives and liberals, is that like, and I mean like far liberals, like far left liberals, obviously. There's a lot of liberals kind of in the center that understand this. Like Asmongold, for instance, right? Like he understands this. He understands, like, it, I think, to some level. Basically, you need, wanting to have more of something doesn't create more of it. So it's like, how do we create more of that resource in a way that's fair for everybody? That's the idea. It's idealistic. Like, oh, just make more houses. Well, okay, well, how do you get more of it? Saying that something is a right, saying that you want more of it, doesn't create more of it. You need to like have, and that's the idea, by the way, behind Republicans saying like we should have less taxes, because the less taxes gives more room for people to innovate and create more, basically. Because you have more free money, right? Like you have like and this is the thing with like tax the rich and stuff like that, right? Is like well, in some cases, I mean, I don't think their heart is in the wrong place. In a lot of cases, they're right, where a lot of rich people do take advantage of things, right? But rich people still, like, people need like investment money in order to fund like these projects of like creating like more housing, for instance, right? Yeah, what Fatsfield says, more freed money, not free money. Yeah, exactly.
For different groups, like
I don't think they
policies
understand
are usually ones that are kind
our
of
point.
watered down, right? They're kind of less, like increasing funding for specific grant programs for certain races of businesses. I mean, that's great and all, and we've had that for a long time, but that's not going to fix the
wait, what?
Increasing funding for specific grant programs for certain races of businesses.
I don't agree with that at all. Certain races? They said certain races?
Like increasing funding for specific grant programs for certain races of businesses.
Yeah, races. I don't agree with that at all. That's evil.
Businesses. I mean, that's great and all, and we've had
that's
that
evil and
for a
it's
long
racist.
time, but that's not going to fix the big economic inequality and opportunity issues we have in this country. The only thing that can do that is dramatic investments, is a huge expansion of the social support system, et cetera, et cetera.
See, it's the same thing, right? So here's my point. They want more money from us for the government to do it. Like, oh, the government, like, just give the government more money and we'll handle it, right? We've already established that the government wastes money and that they're shit. Why do you think they're so scared of Doge? Because it's true. They waste money all the fucking time. I'd rather have there be an incentive to create rather than. So the problem is when you give the government money, a lot of the stuff that they make is not due to incentive. It's due to them just having money that they took from us, right? And then their only incentive, the incentive of the government, is to like get away with doing as little as possible without us knowing, basically, without us finding out about it. Whereas the incentive for like a business, for instance, is to make money. So we can, so basically the incentive for a business is more predictable and more understandable than the government's incentive, basically.
And that's the kind of stuff that we should probably focus on talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You look at things like, the healthcare plan, or, homeowners, like first-time loans up to this amount or this percentage. I need Democrats to start talking like, well, what's your healthcare policy? My healthcare policy is healthcare should be good and cheap.
Right. Because he doesn't explain like, I'm going to do price transparency, like a price statute, and
and the thing is Republicans agree with the same thing. Republicans want, I mean, I'll tell you what I want. I want healthcare to be good and cheap too. This is what I mean. I think they fundamentally misunderstand like what we believe in, or what I believe in, rather. I want the same thing. I want healthcare to be good and cheap. I want people to be able to afford housing, right? It's just, I just don't agree with how you're going about it.
Expand the premium tax credit, whatever. Like,
no.
Republicans never say the word tax credit. Why do we say the word tax credit all the time?
I think it's because like we're still operating in this like fallout of Reagan, Bill Clinton mentality. But the difference is that most Democrats don't have the charisma that Bill Clinton had. And so instead of leaning on the charisma, they lean on the
Oh yeah, he had a lot of charisma, guys.
details. And I just don't think it translates the same way. We just come off as a bunch of dorks. Like that's just the truth. We just come off as a bunch of dorks.
Right.
Nobody wants to listen to a dork.
I think voters like people they think are smart, but they don't like people that they don't understand, right? They want to feel like they understand what you're saying and it's smart, not just like I don't understand what they're saying.
Wait, what did they say? Hold on.
Instead of leaning on the same way, we just come off as a bunch of dorks.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just the truth. We just come off as a bunch of dorks.
Right.
Nobody wants to listen to a dork.
I think voters like people they think are smart, but they don't like people that they don't understand, right? They want to feel like they understand what you're saying and it's smart, not just like I don't understand what they're saying, therefore they're smart, right? And they also like simple solutions, right? Like we don't need to talk about each detail of each healthcare policy. We can just say, like you said, what we're gonna do, right? And you can tell people the basic details about how you're gonna do it. You don't need to really get in the weeds. And you also don't need to talk about 20 things at once. I think that's part of the issue with the Democratic coalition. The Republican coalition is like, we want border security, tax cuts, whatever. There's like 5 things that they actually care about.
Wait, what?
And it's like, talk about 20 things at once. I think that's part of the issue with the Democratic coalition. The Republican coalition is like, we want border security, tax cuts. Issue with the Democratic coalition. The Republican coalition is like, we want border security, tax cuts, whatever.
What?
Whatever. There's like 5 things that they actually care about, and then there's minor things. And for the Democrats, it's like, well, we're really diverse.
Oh, he said it wrong. He meant Republican. Okay. He just fucked up. Basically, he just had a streaming moment.
Right, and you can tell people the basic details about how
he meant really Republican coalition.
And you also don't need to talk about 20 things at once. I think that's part of the issue with the Democratic coalition. The Republican coalition is like, we want border security, tax cuts, whatever.
Wait, he said it right?
Coalition.
No, he didn't.
And you also don't need to talk about 20 things at once. I think that's part of the issue with the Democratic coalition. The Republican coalition is like,
oh, I see. Because he said Democratic coalition, and then he said Republican right after, but just really, really, really fast. Yeah. Okay.
We want border security, tax cuts, whatever. There's like 5 things that they actually care about, and then there's minor things. And for
I was about to say, what the fuck?
The Democrats, it's like, well, we're really diverse, actually. We want a lot of different things, but we need to learn to prioritize because not every issue deserves to be brought into the spotlight just for any reason. Whenever you go to a door as a Democrat and you knock on the door to talk to a voter about
the thing about Democrats is a lot of them are dreamers. Like a lot of them have this idealistic view of like we should do this and that, but I think a lot of them, they don't know how to actually build it. I think that's the problem.
Things that your party supports, they should already know what those things are. If they don't, that means that you're not doing a good job messaging. If you go to somebody, you ask them what.
It's kind of like there's a saying that like if you aren't a Democrat when you're young, that you have no if you're not a Democrat when you're young, you have no heart. But then if you don't become a Republican, you have no brain. It's kind of like that. Honestly, I actually think that's true. I think that like the Democrats do have a lot of heart, and I think that's like their best thing. They're all dreamers basically. They have this view of like the world that they want it to be like a lot better. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Like I think that's a good thing. It's just you need to combine the two, you know?
What does Trump support?
And I think that is something that a lot of Republicans do have as well. Is they take that a little bit too far. They take the other part too far where they have no heart, and then they're like, I don't care about anybody but myself. And then that's I think the that's also bad when you have that to the extreme.
They're going to be able to list at least 2 things, probably. They can't list anything for Kamala Harris. $30,000 home buyer tax credit, whatever. No, there's 0% chance they can list anything because there's just so many ideas and they're all so contrived.
Well, no, that's not true. They'll say that she supports sex changes for transgender illegal aliens in prison.
A center of her platform, yes.
It was a center.
Wait, but didn't they do that? Wait, but didn't that happen?
Extra part of her platform. Yeah, I mean, it's just the same thing over and over again. It's kind of like, guys, what are we doing here? I think of it as America, or voters in general, when they're deciding who they want to vote for, they want a mom and they want a dad. Not to be homophobic, because there can be, same-sex parents here. But they want a mom and a dad. They want someone who, in times of uncertainty, can bring them comfort and can make them feel like there's someone there for them. And then they also want someone who's going to be stern, who's going to have their back, and who's going to
Wait, what's the title? They are out of... Holy fuck. Holy fuck.
The tough things. They want someone who's going to be stern, who's going to have their back, and who's going to say the tough things that need to be said. And I feel like
Did they... Hold on. Did she just basically indirectly say that you need both a mom and a dad in a family for the proper raising of a kid? Did she just accidentally say that? I feel like she did.
Someone who's going to be stern, who's going to have...
I feel like she accidentally gave the reasons for it too,
and can make them feel like there's someone there for them.
Funny.
And then they also want someone who's going to be stern, who's going to have their back, and who's going to say the tough things that need to be said. And I feel like we try to offer voters comfort, but instead of coming across as like mom or dad, we kind of come across as like the aunt who you kind of don't like her, but she gets you really good Christmas presents. So like every once in a while you'll go visit. Like I feel like that's kind of how we come across as like, oh, I don't really trust the Democrats and I don't really like them that much, but the Affordable Care Act was cool. And like that's kind of the extent of it. Is how people feel about us most of the time.
Well, yeah. Well, that's the family theory of partisan politics in the United States.
So actually, like, I'm gonna be real. This was not a bad video, actually. This was a good video, I think, in terms of from a political standpoint, like looking at like for Democrat videos, it's actually pretty good. Like I really think so. Like it really does. Again, I disagreed with some of the stuff for like the reasons I explained, but they didn't scream. It was civil. They didn't scream. They didn't say that people were just like, they're just racist and stuff. In fact, they were kind of speaking against that. So I think, honestly, if we want to return to a sense of like kind of normalcy, like we want to kind of tone things down and like, we want to get the pendulum like kind of not swinging so hard, we need more of this. We really do. I think. I mean, you can say what you want about like their policies being bad. I did talk about it, about how I don't agree with some of that. I gave some examples of why I didn't agree with it. I actually think that the way they approached it is the way that they have to. Otherwise, nobody's going to take them seriously. Or what happened? Democrats are physically addicted to anger and hate. Well, the thing is the ones on the far left obviously are, but there are a lot like kind of more towards the center. Or the people that are kind of on the edge of like kind of becoming super radicalized. I think like having more people like this to kind of pull back, and kind of have people tone down. I think this is a good thing. Again, even though I don't agree with them on, the policies, I think that the attitude I think is much better. It's a much more level-headed. Much more level-headed way of going about things, I think. Incorrect assessment? How am I wrong? How am I wrong, Sleepy? There's no opposition, it's just a circle jerk? What do you mean? They literally said that it was bad. What do you mean it's a circle jerk? They literally said that it was bad how they were trying to approach men. And just people in general. Didn't they? Would you okay, so would you agree or disagree that this was how do I word it? That this was preferable to like them just shouting and telling everybody that they're racist. But they don't have any opposition from the opposing. View. So this has nothing to do with that. Like this is infighting basically between the. So they're talking about their views as opposed to the current mainstream Democratic view, and they were saying that the current mainstream Democratic view alienates a lot of people, which it does, right? Again, I'm not saying I agree with them. I'm not saying I agree with them, Sleepy. I mean, I said it a lot of times. I don't agree with their policies or anything like that, right? Oh, what I'm saying is that this is preferable to like, I don't know, TikTok. I mean, I guess we just look at this over here. I think it's preferable to like.
Given after someone describes a scenario where a man is doing something wrong, like abusing people. It's similar but not quite equivalent to when you're driving on a highway behind an older person and you go, oh my god, they're driving so slow, I hate old people.
Would you be able to?
I could find. I don't have
Welcome
any.
to.
I don't have any off like, you know, off the. I'd have to like look it up, but there's plenty of them I've seen, basically. Oh, you can't see I'm covering it. Basically, like there's a lot of cases. There's a lot of cases in which they just scream and they talk about how men are the worst and like they're Nazis and stuff. The View, yeah, The View is a good example, actually. Yeah, The View. The whole point was to bring back men into the Democratic Party from Republicans. Yeah, I mean yeah, obviously. Yeah. So Sleepy, like obviously that was the point. Yeah, that is the point. Yeah, because they're Democrats, right? So their point is that, listen, guys, we can't just keep fucking shouting at men and telling them they're the worst. It doesn't work. They're saying that it doesn't work and it's not true. That was what they said, basically. They said that's like 50% of humanity. You can't just lump them all in like that, right? That's what they said. That's the lowest achievement bar possible, honestly. You know what? True. My entire point is that this is preferable. That it. I don't think this is very different than the normal playbook. I think it's drastically different. Sleepy. It's drastically different from like their normal playbook of like blaming men and saying that men are the worst and that they're toxic. Shubati says Leaf wants them to level up so they can move society further left. No, what I'm saying is that I want them to stop demonizing men and being racist. That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying is I want things to calm down. They will keep doing that though, and then they'll keep losing. Good. But like, listen, me saying like, but I don't understand. I don't understand. Like, I don't understand that me saying that the people on the left should moderate a little bit. That doesn't mean I want them to win. What are you saying, guys? I'm not gonna lie. You guys are destroying my brain right now. Like, I don't know how this is possible. Like, I don't. Shubati says, I want the left to leave, to disappear. There's always gonna be people to the left of you. Regardless of how far that is. What I'm advocating for is moving the far left side. Okay, you know what? Let me draw it. Let me draw it so you guys understand. I didn't think I would have to draw this, but okay. So here's the thing. Here's the political spectrum, okay? This is over here. You have the far left, and then over here, okay, and then here you have the moderates. Okay, this is the political spectrum. What the left did is the left did what I want. So actually, let me be more. Let me specifically talk about this case. Let's assume this is the current thing. You know, obviously it actually used to be like this. It used to be more like this middle thing was actually like over here originally, right? And then this was this was like here originally, right? And then the far left like basically moved the middle part over to where people that were here, that were on the left, are now on, you know, people that were originally here and were moderate are now considered far right. Okay, so you have like your Asmongold's here, your Elon Musk's are kind of like there, right? And then they moved it over, right? Now, what I'm advocating for, okay, is doing this and eliminating this. Do you see what I mean? This is what I want. And I think that more of the kind of way that they're talking about will do this. What you're saying is that the commie sympathy. Okay, hold on. Are you joking, Travis? Are you trolling, bro? Are you trolling me? There's no way. Are you trolling me? So this is what I. Okay, he's trolling. He's trolling. This is what I mean, though, right? I want this. Okay, I want this, and you know, honestly, I want this too. Do you see my point? Is that people having more people talking like the way that they do is going to eliminate and push these people this way. Dredgenot says there is no far right. Yes, there is. They just have no power right now, but they're gaining power. They are. There is far right. There is, but just because. Okay, guys, hold on. Okay, just because this happened. Okay. So just because this happened, so this is what they did, right? They moved it to here, and they made all of this right. So originally this was right, and then they made it now that right is this big. Okay, that doesn't mean that this doesn't exist still. It still exists. But I guess what your point is, hold on, wait. I guess what your point that you're trying to make, Dredge, is that a lot of these things actually loop around. So it's actually more like this, actually. The truth is, it's actually more like this. It actually looks like this. This is what it, so, you know, for illustration, I was making this point like this, right? But in reality, it's more like this. This is what it actually looks like. And then this is like the right, and then this is the left. This is what it really looks like. So like actually the connection between these two is actually like closer than this. Yeah. It could be an Ouroboros. I guess you could do that. You could make it, you know, if you really want. It could be like a snake eating its own ass. I mean, you just have like the snake, right? And he's like sucking himself off, right? Like that, yeah. Yeah. You could do that if you wanted. But yeah, if you like actually listen to like a lot of the stuff that the quote unquote far right says, it's actually closer to the far left than it is to the middle, right? So like, I am here. Like Leaflit is here, Asmongold is here, and the distance between like this is like the neo-Nazis, right? So let's just say that the neo-Nazis are here, and then the super woke people are here, and as you can see, the distance between these two and these two is significantly further, right? It's a meme that racists and the woke agree. Yeah. It's true. Like, here's a little video about it.
When me and Brad first met, I didn't think we'd get along, but turns out we kind of agree on everything. Your racial identity is the most important thing. Everything should be looked at through the lens of race.
Jinx, you owe me a Coke. We both have a lot of opinions about people of color, even though we barely know any.
I say colored people, but as long as we're classifying them, we both think minorities are a united group who think the same and act the same.
And vote the same. You don't want to lose your black card. Sorry, I don't know. I just think we should
roll back discrimination laws so we can hire based on race again. Jinx, now you owe me a Coke. Hey, tell him what you told me yesterday.
White actors should only do voices for white cartoon
I've been
characters.
saying that for years. Stick to your own.
Us white people, we have so much privilege.
I agree. It is a privilege to be white. Ask him about interracial dating.
All I said is that black men who date white women have internalized racism, and white men that date ethnic women are fetishizing them.
Guys against interracial dating now. Like, am I being pranked? Did Boomer put you up to this?
Ugh, you know that taco place is white owned?
This is what I'm saying. Is like they actually have a lot in common.
White people should be making white foods like Kraft macaroni and cheese, no seasoning, not even salt. It's like he's a mind reader. I mean, I've been pushing for segregation forever, and my man does what?
I created an improv comedy show exclusively for ethnic people.
Guy segregates comedy on my birthday.
White people need to stop wearing dreadlocks, and they need to stop appropriating black people's music.
Shaved heads and country music, the way God intended.
You know all white people are racist.
I'm listening.
Even if you have a black wife or a black friend group, you're still really racist.
You know, we just kicked a guy out of the organization for having a black girlfriend, but if you can promise me he's still really racist, we'll consider letting him back in. Black people should only shop at black businesses.
I guess the only thing we really disagree about is I think white people are the root of all evil.
But what did I tell you, though? If we can narrow that down to a certain group of tiny-hatted white people, I think we can come to an understanding.
Technically, I don't consider Jewish people white.
Neither do I.
How real was that, though? How real was that? It's too real. It's actually it's so comedic because it's so true. That's why it's funny. And this is kind of what I mean about the you know the snake thing and the you know the distance between the you know. I just realized I drew like it looks like a snake with like a dick and balls. I literally just realized that. Anyway, that's my point. That's my point is that they're the extremists on both sides are closer to each other than they are to like moderate people. That's my point. I've heard it described like a horseshoe shape. Yes, it is. It is basically that. Yeah. I only used the reason I used the line. So the reason why I did the line thing instead is because the line thing is a lot easier to visualize in terms of what I was talking about, how if you do this, boom, and you eliminate this, then we are closer together. That's my point. Is that we don't need these guys. Like these guys, like this is bad. We should move everybody this way. That's my point. And the reason I don't like the extreme leftists is because they're so far like out of they're so far like off on a different planet that I hate it. You want us to be balls? Yeah. Yes, killing us off. That's exactly, yeah. That's what I meant.